Hey everybody, it's Lawrence Presman here, the Prez, and it's the college football betting show for Thanksgiving week. Great show today. Teddy covers and Dave Cokin. We're going to take apart 5 games in depth, and then we're going to do 10 quick hits. Let's bring the guests in. Let's get the show on the road. Teddy, let's start with you, dude. Happy Thanksgiving weekend. What do you got planned?
I'm finishing this podcast and getting on a plane to go visit the family. I'll be back on Saturday night. And, of course, we will be at the Westgate Superbook on Sunday for the big meet and greet. Should be a lot of fun. But between here and then, it's a trip to the family and a whole bunch of turkey. So it's a little bit of a hectic day. What about you?
Well, I don't do Thanksgiving, so I'll just be watching football. Yeah, life's good, bro. Dave, how you doing? Are you doing anything special Thursday or the weekend?
Yeah. Best friends in town, New Englander, Boston guy. It's going to be an Italian Thanksgiving, so the food will be absolutely sensational, and looking forward to that. Coming off a decent football weekend, another winning college weekend, highlighted by a 5-star in Georgia State, a 5%, I should say, which still don't know why people were betting the other side of that game. It made no sense whatsoever, but it was good for me and everybody who bought it. And we'll try and keep it going. It's been a heck of a college season again.
Yeah, I mean, you're closing in on 65%, give or take, and it's like every week, Dave Cokin cashes another college football card.
Well, that's what I'm supposed to do in college. It's my best sport. And one more big week this weekend, and then on to the Bulls, which have been very good. Of course, we got the championship weekend as well.
Yeah, that should be fun. Guys, let's just take care of some business and get straight to it. I just want to make mention to everybody. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday is our Thanksgiving to all our customers, viewers, and listeners. We have lowered the price of every single package on the website to only $9. If you guys want to play Teddy or Dave, it's $9. $9 Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and you do not need a promo code. Just head over to Wager Talk or Sports Memo and make sure to play one of these guys, specifically Dave Cokin in college football. Although, Teddy, you're killing it. You had an outstanding November in college football.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a good month. We're at 65% for the month of November. Unfortunately, I had a good September and then a crappy October, but November's been real good. And I got no complaints right now. We'll see if we can keep it rolling this weekend.
Excellent. Guys, let's get straight to it. Friday, noon game, Virginia Tech on the road playing, well, it's rivalry week, so it's their rivals, Virginia. The line came out at -1.5 for Virginia. It's now at 3 for Virginia Tech with a total of 48. And Dave, I'll go to you first. What do you like in this game?
Well, I mean, Virginia Tech has owned the series. So get that out of the way quickly. I mean, they've dominated this series. But this is a really interesting line because it is so reflective of the public conception of these two teams right now. Virginia Tech is on fire. They've got 2 straight shutouts. They're covering everything in sight. And Virginia's kind of fallen under the radar to some extent, or to the side of the road. But you look at the Cavaliers, and they're 8-3. And they're actually not far away from being better than that. I'm not saying that you should use one-game comparisons, but I will here anyway. And that's the Notre Dame game, because you had 2 very misleading scores in those games. Virginia lost by 15, but they were statistically dead even with Notre Dame in that game. In fact, they outplayed them in the first half by a decent margin. There was a big swing play in that game, and it unfortunately went against Virginia. Now, Virginia Tech plays Notre Dame, and you look at that, and, well, Notre Dame won the game at the very end with seconds to play, win by 1. And yet that was a misleading score because they actually got plowed statistically in that game, and there was a 96-yard fumble return, 14-point swing in the game that kept Virginia Tech in it. So you had 2 misleading scores against the same opponent. my power ratings still have this game with Virginia, the rightful favorite, by about 3 points. And I think there's some real value in the Cavaliers here because of the fact that right now Virginia Tech has become about as public a team as you can find. They might get there again. And I mean, they have, again, as I go back to what we talked about at the beginning of this analysis, they have owned this series. They find a way to win all the time. But I think Virginia is going to get them this week in what should be one of the best games on the board.
Dave, that's a 6-point differentiator from the line to your line. Should we assume you're getting to the window on this play?
I already have.
There you go, everybody. Dave has already bet Virginia. Teddy, what do you like in this game?
I'm not going to play it. I'm certainly not as strong on Virginia as Dave is. And it comes down to this rationale. I'm not laying with the Hokies, all right? But I'm tempered with my enthusiasm about Virginia because I've seen this offense play against good defenses. And what happened in the Notre Dame game is what happens to Virginia when they face a good defense. We saw it in the Miami game as another class example of where this offense was just stuck in the mud. And say what you want about the Hokies' recent resurgence. It's coming from the defensive side of the football. So I guess if I'm playing this game, I look under before I looked side. I don't know that either of these two offenses are going to be marching the ball up and down the field. And obviously, it's a game with enormous implications. And sometimes the nerves get a little bit tight in a game like that.
Right. The winner of this game gets the right to go get smashed by Clemson.
Dave Cokin and Teddy Covers with us. Both can be found at wagertalk.com. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. We really appreciate all of you guys. I mean, we consider our YouTube channel, a community, and we read the comments. We pay attention to what you guys are doing. Occasionally, we even wish happy birthdays to some of our clients. Real quick, Dwayne Bryant on a 9-1 totals run in college basketball. Dwayne is 62% in college basketball totals since he joined us about 3-4 years ago. Those are legendary plays for him. He's as good as they get. And guys, I took $400 off of his college basketball season package, regularly priced at $9.95. I took $400 off. It's yours for $5.95. Just head over to wagertalk.com and use the promo code DB595. That's DB595. Dave, no show, no puck time on Thursday. So,
yes.
Yeah, only two.
Good. But I was running real hot in hockey, and we all go through these. The last 7 games that I've had in hockey that have gone past regulation, lost the ball.
Ugh.
Yeah, so I put out a 5% play on the New York Islanders last night. Do I need to say anything more?
I don't want to get into hockey conversation, but that the Ducks play the same style as the Islanders, and it almost figured as a game they might have some trouble in because they mirror what the Islanders do.
Yeah, I mean, with that said, the Islanders could have been up 4-0 at the end of the first period. They just completely dominated that game. Boys, Cincinnati on the road playing Memphis, and this should be a doozy. Both teams are 10-1, and yet Memphis finds themselves at anywhere from minus 10.5. Well, it's really 11, almost all the way across the board, but there are some 10.5s. We have a total of 57.5. Dave, a big number against a 10-1 team. What are your thoughts?
Well, Cincinnati's kind of fortunate to be 10-1. Memphis is the better team. It's in the number. So you're paying a pretty severe penalty, in my opinion, to bet Memphis full game. But I'll tell you what, my recommendation here, Memphis second half. There might not be a better, and this is why their coach is going to have a lot of offers at the end of the season. Now, whether he takes any of them, I don't know. But this guy has made some of the best adjustments on a weekly basis, and game after game after game, Memphis has been a tremendous team after halftime. So that would be my advice in this game: is wait to see what happens in the first half, and then look for Memphis to be the better team after halftime.
Teddy, you with Dave on this?
I mean, conceptually, I'm not going to argue with him. I'm from a how much does this game mean standpoint, it's enormous. These two teams, if Memphis wins, these two teams will play on this field again next week for the conference title. Okay? If Memphis wins. Cincinnati's already there. They've already clinched the East. In the West, Memphis has to win this game. If not, Navy's hot on their heels. And Navy is, a favorite against Houston this week. And they'll play after this game finishes. So in theory, that would put the pressure on Navy if Memphis lost. But this is a game where literally the dog doesn't want to show anything. The problem, of course, is that Cincinnati is still live for a New Year's Day bowl game. And if they lose this, they won't be. So how do you play that if you're Luke Fickell? I don't know. Go, Dave.
I'm going to debate this with you. I disagree that Cincinnati doesn't want to show anything here, because I think Cincinnati would love to face Navy in the title game rather than have to face this Memphis team. Memphis is better than Navy. So I think.
And if they play Navy, they get it. If they win here and play at home as opposed to, it makes a ton of sense. But the initial, and again, we record early on Tuesday morning. Every T has been crossed at this stage of the game. We want to give an early impression, so you guys have as much of the week as you can to get involved. But my early impression of this was I wasn't sure that Cincy was going to show up in full for this one, and I think that may merit Memphis' double-digit chalk.
How about that Baltimore Ravens team, guys? I know we're talking college football, but just a moment to say, wow.
They are now the favorite. The updated Superbook USA odds this morning, they are now the favorite to win the Super Bowl.
I think six drives in a row, touchdown every drive. I mean, it was unbelievable. And Teddy, you and I were both on the Rams. Thank God I had the over, but boy, that was a bit of a sweat too.
The Rams, by the way, have no first-round draft picks until 2023. That team is in trouble.
Yeah, and they might need a quarterback. Guys.
Now, they have their quarterback because
he's been paid
enormous, $100 million.
Yeah.
It's Gopher or bust.
Boys, let's get to what I think will be the game of the weekend. Ohio State playing in Michigan. Line is 9. A few 1-8 on the board, but and 1-8 and 1-9.5. But on a whole, it's 9 with 51 as the total. And we did see Ohio State. It's interesting because if they didn't turn the ball over twice last week, they probably would have covered the 18 against Penn State. And that stuff is going to happen. Now they're going into Michigan. Teddy, let's start with you. I know Michigan's your alma mater, and I also know you don't care about them. So where should we put our money?
So on the one hand, and this really is a fascinating game, because on the one hand, Ohio State has not faced a good defense on the road all year. And, this is a team that may well be, at this stage of the campaign, a good notch or two over value because they've killed everybody all year, and the markets reflected that. And look at the price for this game. And the way that Michigan has played since the Wisconsin loss has been bet on all the way.
Yeah.
Money makers in every role. All that said, Ohio State is teams. The Buckeyes still have the better of these two programs. And you have a first-year coach in Day who, guess what? If he gets the chance, you better believe they're going to run it up. You better believe they're going to punch in the other touchdown, the extra touchdown. Day wants to get to 50 this week, and that makes me reluctant because they are the better team with the better quarterback and the better defense. So I'm not taking the points with the Wolverines as home dogs. If I'm playing, I'm laying, but I'm not playing this game. I'm not going to get involved.
Dave?
No, this is an easy pass for me. I made the line 10. Most really big games are games I end up not playing because you generally, and there's exceptions, like the Clemson-Alabama game last year, where I had a pretty strong opinion because the number surprisingly wasn't a particularly good number in terms of my power ratings. But this one's right on the button. However, if you're going to play a side, to me, it's got to be Ohio State because, if nothing else, Michigan doesn't win games like this. They just haven't won them under Harbaugh. And Ohio State, they're just not doing anything wrong. So, if I had to bet the game, and I'm not betting it, Ohio State.
Minnesota hosting Wisconsin. Next up, I guess, is the winner of the Ohio State-Michigan game. We have Wisconsin at -2.5 on the road, a very low total of 47.5 in this game. And Dave, let's go to you first, my friend.
So when Penn State played Minnesota, we had real good value with the Gophers. If you remember, that line was 6 or 6.5, I believe. And Minnesota had not yet gotten the respect of the betting public. The marketplace didn't think they were for real. Now, the adjustment, because there's not a whole lot to choose between Wisconsin and Penn State. And yet the line now is 4 points lower than it was for the Penn State game. So the adjustment's been made. Minnesota is now recognized as a legitimate team. I still think Minnesota might be the right side here, but it's not nearly as strong an opinion as I had with Minnesota against Penn State, which made my card. This game won't make my card, but I would lean to the Golden Gophers. I think it's a complete toss-up, so there's a little bit of value still, just a little bit, with Minnesota.
Teddy?
I'm not a Wisconsin believer, okay? And I haven't been a Wisconsin believer. And remember that 6-0 hot streak to open up the season where they blew everyone out at home? That's a long, long time ago now for the Badgers. Minnesota beat them by 3 touchdowns last year in Madison. I think Minnesota's the better team. They certainly have the better quarterback. They have the better receiving core. They can rally if they're trailing. They've shown a ton of character this year in hostile environments that I haven't seen from Wisconsin. And they're playing for a chance at the Big Ten title. There's no brainer here. Gophers, and it's a bet.
What would be really fascinating, I mean, as someone who wants an expanded playoff and still argues vehemently against the way they select these teams because there's such a bias built in to the big names. I would love to see Minnesota make it to the title game and beat Ohio State because that would completely screw up the rankings, completely screw it up.
That would get 3 SEC teams in, maybe. I mean, there's a scenario where we see. What's that?
I don't know what they would do. Huh? And I'm also rooting for. I guess I'm kind of rooting, as we segue to Alabama Auburn. I'm kind of rooting for Alabama, just so they don't know what to do there either. If Georgia would, I love it because the more of this confusion there is, and the more teams that get screwed, the better chance there is of an 8-team playoff. It's a no-brainer. We see how popular the 4-team playoff is. Imagine how popular the 8-team playoff would be. It would be absolutely sensational.
64-team playoff, Dave.
That's what I think.
You can't
Forget
do that.
the bowl.
No, you can't. You can't do that because then you're playing 17 games. You can't do it. It's college football. You can't. You just
sure
can't
you
go
can.
there. No,
you absolutely. Well, you're not playing 17. You play 6 games to win the title. If there's 64 teams, you play down to a Final Four. You kill the bowls. The only reason the bowls exist is because of all of this grandfathered stuff where all these guys are making money and siphoning the money out of the system, where each bowl and each bowl director makes 100 and 200 and 300 and whatever, ridiculous amounts of money.
Point is this, okay, and I'm going to tell you, that can't happen for one reason.
I know.
No, and at that point, you'd have a players' union formed. And it's like, we want to be paid because you can't risk.
They're not getting paid in college hoops.
It's football and basketball don't compare. They just don't. They just don't. I mean, football, there is trauma, physical trauma.
Can we settle for a 16-team playoff?
I could live with. I could live with 16. I don't think it's going to happen.
The bowls are stupid. The whole concept of the bowls are stupid.
Here's the other thing.
The whole concept of how college football is set up is stupid, Teddy.
Okay, but this is really important, and I hope I can sell you on this.
Okay.
You don't ever want the Bulls to disappear.
I know, because we make money off them.
Because they are the best, and I'm not kidding. They are the best time of year to bet college football. I can guarantee you're gonna have 8 to 10 games this year. Some of the Bulls will, there's 40 Bulls and 30 of them might be unplayable, but 10 of them in that range, you're gonna have games where there's a decided advantage in terms of emphasis on the game from one team to the other, and you also get great power rating matchups, and I don't ever want to lose those.
Agreed.
I mean, it is an absolute bonanza for sports bettors.
Yeah, I mean, from a fan perspective, there's no reason to think that you can't have a 64-team playoff in college football and take the Bulls and shove them forever. From a betting standpoint, which is what we are, I'm with you.
Leave things the way they are.
I like Bulls.
Well, I think the stupidest part of college football is the fact that teams like Clemson don't play anybody.
They can't do anything about the fact the rest of their conference sucked this year.
We see this year in and year out. Alabama, okay, they play 2 or 3 big games, and then they play a bunch of Coastal Carolinas. Anyway, speaking of Alabama, before we get into that game, I just want to make mention, Tony Finn went 2-1 in NFL this past week. He's on a 6-1 NFL run. I don't know if you know this, Teddy and Dave, but Tony is 34-15 this NFL season. 34-15. That is a hair under 70% on the entire season. I took $100 off of his season in playoffs. It's now a low $295. Head over to wagertalk.com. Use the promo code TonyNFL. That's TonyNFL. Okay, let's talk Alabama, boys. Dave, we'll go to you first. They're minus 3.5 playing Auburn, a total of 50. Regale us.
Boy, this is tough because it's really difficult to assign the power rating to Tua as opposed to his backup. Because we've seen him against nothing. He played against Arkansas and against Western Carolina. And I haven't seen enough of him against a quality team to properly assign what I think is the right power rating for that position. So I don't know what to do here. I really, it's a complete puzzle to me. I'm guessing at numbers. And on one hand, I made Auburn -3, guessing, and what's it? Mac Jones. Okay. Guessing him on the low end. But if I'm wrong on Jones, then it should probably be more like Alabama -3. So I hate doing this, but I have the slightest idea what to do with this game because I don't know how to judge the Alabama quarterback. I know what Auburn's got. Auburn's got a heck of a defense. They're the best 3-loss team you want to find any place, and they want nothing more. This is their season because they can't make the playoffs. If they knock Alabama out of the playoffs, Auburn's season is a success. And by the way, from a bowl perspective, I hope that happens because Auburn won't give a crap about their bowl game if they beat Alabama here. So might have a play against there in terms of a value play against Auburn in a bowl game. But I honestly I'd be lying if I said I had any real idea of how to handicap this particular game.
Teddy, what about the under?
So it's a play that makes a ton of sense on paper. However, these are two teams that can score on offense, they can score on defense, and they can score on special teams. And I really hesitate playing some of these relatively low totals under when I know that all 3 units are capable of scoring for both teams. So you could see the big play, quick strike touchdowns. You could see the scoop and scores on defense. You could see the punt return touchdown. And those cheap scores are the death of unders. So that's my reluctance with the under in this one. There's a whole lot of athletic ability on the field in this ballgame. My question is Alabama's defense. All right. I think the Crimson Tide will be okay offensively here. And Auburn certainly hasn't lit up the scoreboard at any point this season against any decent defense they've faced. And to be honest, I haven't been particularly impressed with the development of Bo Nix. From where he was in September to where he is now, I haven't seen that, oh, wow, this quarterback's definitely getting better. The Crimson Tide defense has looked really good against a lot of lesser foes. We saw what happened when they played a good offense in LSU, and it wasn't pretty. If you believe in the Tide defense, Alabama's the play here. That's the handicap for me. It's much less to do with the quarterback position and more to do with Alabama's defense. If the defense is the defense that got gashed early and has had problems against high-octane offenses, then I'd be a lot more reluctant to lay the price with Alabama. And the answer is I don't know. So like Dave, I'm very unlikely to get involved in this one. There's too many question marks. And, watch and learn. And even at this stage of the season, watching and learning, it's it's just fine. There's still games to be played, and there's still stuff we can learn from these matchups. I don't expect to have a bet here before kickoff.
My best bet on this game is not on this game. I think Auburn will be the prime location for a graduate transfer quarterback that will take over under center next year for Auburn. Because they're going to be loaded next season.
You don't like their quarterback right now?
Auburn?
Yeah.
No. I echo what Teddy said. I don't think Bo Nix has developed the way they thought he would, and I expect Auburn to be. I mean, what an attractive destination for a grad transfer quarterback who's got a year of eligibility left and wants to go play for a potential national champion.
Maybe Mitch Trubisky could go back, but I doubt they'd even take him. 10 quick hits, boys. Before we get into that, just a reminder to everybody, I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. Spend a lot of time with your family and loved ones. Watch some football and just enjoy. We lowered all our prices on the website for the entire weekend, Thursday all the way through to Monday. It's only $9. I have a 5% play in NFL on Thursday, it's $9. Dave Cokin's card on Saturday, $9. Teddy's got some plays, $9. Everything is $9 from Thursday to Monday at both Wager Talk and Sports Memo. Mississippi versus Mississippi State. Mississippi State down to, 2.5 almost across the board. Couple of threes, 58.5. Teddy.
I think that Ole Miss is better than Mississippi State, flat out. I'm a little bit surprised by this number, but again, the Bulldogs are in must-win to reach bowl eligibility, and they're at home. It's not a series where the home field matters a whole lot. I can only take the Rebels plus.
Dave?
Or the Rebels might, yeah.
The opening line in this game did interest me. The very first number put up on Sunday at Circa was Mississippi 1, and that was like, well, if that holds up, I'll probably take the Bulldogs. But it got adjusted to the right price. Mississippi State about 3, and I think that's a good number. Toss-up game, huge game for both teams, and both teams care more about this than they would about any bowl.
Washington versus Washington State. Washington -7, a total of 63.5. Teddy.
So my gut reaction is I cannot lay points with the Huskies. I really, really can't.
Then don't.
I won't. All that said, there is an enormous difference in defensive class between these two teams. And say what you want about how Washington's season is ruined, and and how they've lived up to no expectations and major disappointment, et cetera, et cetera. When you look at the Huskies defense and you watch the Huskies defense compared to the Cougars defense, there's no comparison. The series history shows that. It makes me very reluctant to take the points with Wazoo, equally reluctant to take them as I am to lay them with Washington.
Dave?
All right, Washington State off an absolutely insane game last week, where they're up 11 in the fourth quarter and they gave up 29 straight points, and then come down and win the game at the end. And I got to tell you, Oregon State's coach fucked up in a big way. I mean, Jonathan Smith's done a great job with Oregon State, but you got a 4th and 4, and Washington State's out of timeouts. The ball's at midfield. Oregon State's got 4th and 4. Midfield, Washington State out of timeouts. You have to punt. You have to punt the ball.
How much time on the clock?
don't know, less than 2 minutes.
You have to punt.
You got to punt. You have to punt. He gambled, and he left Washington State with a short field. And you know how fast Washington State can get it down the field. And they did. And they win the game at the end. And Oregon State's not going to go bowling now because they're not going to beat Oregon straight up. And that was as good a job as he's done. That was one of the worst coaching blunders I've seen all season. That was an absolute no-brainer punt, no doubt about it. 100%. Okay? Washington State's no good. Okay? They're really not. But Washington isn't either. Washington has turned out to be a tremendously overrated program this season. Now, I know they lost close games to Utah and Oregon, but the fact is the Huskies have gotten worse as the season's gone along. And I think you saw it last week against Colorado. I don't know if this team really cares that much. Washington State probably cares more about the Apple Cup, and even though they got their bowl eligibility last year, I'd lean Cougars here. I think they'll want it more. And by the way, Washington on third downs is just awful.
Kansas State hosting Iowa State. A line came out at 3, Teddy. It's now, there's a 5.5 on the board. There's a 6 on the board. But largely it's 4 and 4.5 with a total of 46. What do you like, brother?
I don't have a strong take on this one at all. The Cyclones, I'm a Cyclones believer, but at this stage of the campaign, a 4-loss team laying this price in Manhattan, I'm just not willing to do it. And K-State to me is, has befuddled me a little bit this year. They're not a team that I've been trying to step in front of or back in recent weeks because I haven't gotten them right. And when you're talking about November college football, the teams that you don't get right, you don't bang your head against the wall with. You find teams that you do get right, and those are the teams you bet. So not one I'm going to get involved with.
David?
Well, Kansas State's actually been very good for me. And I had them again last week, and they did manage to pull through and get the job done. I had them against Texas. I had them, I forget who I had them against, but it was a real good team. In any case, I've done well with Kansas State. But I don't know what to do with this one. This looks like a flat toss-up game. I guess in a flat toss-up game, you gravitate toward the underdog. But I don't know. They've just been through so many ringer games. I wonder what's left in the tank for Kansas State at this point. They actually could wear out. And Iowa State, probably a little better team anyway.
Yeah.
Speaking of a better team, LSU. They're at home hosting A&M. Minus 17 with a 62 on the board. Dave, does LSU just continue to roll?
Yeah, and they'll want this one because this is, you go back to last year and the LSU-Texas A&M game, one of the craziest games in the history of college football. What was it, 7 overtimes, I believe. Yep. That's the game that changed the rule this year. And LSU walked off that field feeling as though they'd gotten absolutely raped by the officials. I know I'm not supposed to use that word. It's not politically correct to do so. But they got let's just say that the officials were not kind to LSU in that football game. I think they'd love I know that all they need to do is win the game, but I think they would love to put like a 40-point win on Texas A&M. I'm not saying they're going to do that because A&M's a pretty good football team, but I would not get in LSU's way here.
Teddy, you with them?
So I don't disagree with the concept, but I worry about the setting for LSU. Although, I don't know, what does A&M have left in the tank now? All right. They've played, at Clemson. They played Auburn. They played Alabama.
So like a real schedule, unlike most of these teams.
Well, they played 3 number ones already. Or no, this is the third, or this is the third number 1 team that they're playing already, not including Georgia and not including Auburn, who are both, top 10 caliber teams. So, and every win they have this year has come against a team that's much weaker than them.
Yeah.
And every loss they have this year has come against a team that is legitimate step up in class. I don't think there's a ton of value anymore with the LSU side of the equation. We saw that last week, a game where they win and dominate and comfortably in control throughout, and they're not covering numbers. But I do agree with Dave's assessment that they wouldn't mind sticking a fork in this team and kicking them down when they're down. And I really worry about the Aggies wearing down in this one. They've been competitive in these road matchups against elite teams. I'm not convinced that plays out in their finale.
It's the only college football game I can remember from last year where the next Saturday, people were still tweeting about how bad the officiating was in the LSU Texas A&M game the prior Saturday.
Guys, Kentucky -8.5 hosting MTS 49.5. Theodore. Oh wait, that's not wrong game. Kentucky is hosting Louisville. Yeah. Lawrence had a long night last night. -3, guys. Dave?
Louisville wants this one. And Satterfield's doing a great job. But I don't know if the ACC's not a good league. And it might be a little step up in class just in terms of the talent. Let me get to my number on the game so I can give you something accurate here. Where is it? Okay, there it is. Let's see. I've got Kentucky about 5 in the game. The problem is, so to me, there's a little value in Kentucky, and especially because Louisville's become, like we talked about with Virginia Tech earlier, Louisville's become a really public team because everybody's caught onto the Satterfield bandwagon, and with good reason. But I think you're kind of getting robbed here on what you should be getting with Louisville. I don't mind the concept of taking Louisville, but one of my rules as a bettor is don't take a bad number.
Yeah.
So even though I think Louisville might want this more than Kentucky, I'm not getting enough to take it. The line should be higher.
Theodore?
And when you talk about defensive class, let's talk about a little bit the Washington State-Washington game. There's a legitimate difference in defensive class between these two teams. Louisville's defenders nowhere near where Kentucky's defenders are right now. And then the betting bandwagon for the Cardinals, it just seems to grow bigger every week. So I don't want Louisville here. It's Kentucky or pass, and probably a pass for me.
Oklahoma there's a 12, a 13, and even a 13.5 on the board against Oklahoma State. A total of 69.5 should be a high-scoring game. Teddy, what do you like?
Can you lay points with Oklahoma right now?
Well, I already tried that 2 weeks ago when me and you watched it at some shitty steakhouse in Vegas.
I'm well aware that's where Marco led us for some reason.
Should have gone to one of my places.
No, it was probably the worst steak I've had in town.
Let's not discuss the name, dude. People work hard.
I don't even know where it was.
I'm not talking about the name. I'm talking about Oklahoma State till you start babbling in about what you did with where you tried with Oklahoma a couple of weeks ago. That's been the case for anyone. That's been the case for anyone who's bet on Oklahoma over the course of the last month. You want to talk about a team with an anti-betting bandwagon? That's the Sooners right now.
Yeah.
They're getting burned, and yet they're still laying doubles here. I'm a little bit surprised by this number. It's a little bit higher than mine is. I'll just leave it at that. I don't know that I want the dog, but I'm not laying with the favorite here. They've shown us enough already that you can't lay doubles with a team that's not getting stops, and a defense that looked okay early has not looked okay late.
Oklahoma's got nothing. I'm sorry, but Oklahoma really doesn't have much to play for. They're out. Okay? They're out. They have no chance of getting into the playoffs. The problem on the Oklahoma State side is they're running out of players. The wide receiver was fantastic. He's out. The quarterback, Sanders, got hurt. I didn't downgrade them. And I played Oklahoma State last week against West Virginia, and I won. But that was kind of okay, let's take the money and get out of here. Because they weren't very good against West Virginia. It just happened that West Virginia is terrible. But Drew Brown was a downgrade from Sanders. I didn't downgrade him on my power ratings. I did downgrade him this week. Because it's like, that wasn't very impressive. West Virginia did the smart thing last week. They keyed on the running back, Hubbard, and wouldn't let him run between the tackles. Oklahoma State found a way to get enough points to win the game, but it was not an impressive performance. And if they play at that level, Oklahoma might run them over here. Not going to be on my won't be on my card because same reasons Teddy said and the ones I added. I don't know how much Oklahoma's interested, but I don't want Oklahoma State. I feel like I got fortunate last week, and I'll leave it at that.
Guys, 4 games left. Let's go through them super quick. Just want to give out those promo codes again. Tony's NFL season and playoffs, $100 off. Tony NFL. Use that promo code at wagertalk.com. Also, Dwayne Bryant's college basketball. I took $400 off of his entire basketball season, all the way through till the championship team is crowned. I use the promo code DB595. Dave, 100 miles an hour, Southern Miss versus Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic minus 9, 8.5, 9.5. Total 54.
Little high. I think there's some value here on Southern Mississippi plus the points.
Teddy?
Fast it up for you?
Oh, that is exactly what I want.
Yeah, FAU just got a breath of life with Marshall's loss last week. They're live to win the conference. I don't know if title or margin matters, but Southern Miss, I don't think is going to trade points with this team. FAU or pass.
SMU minus 3.5, 4, 5, over and under 71, hosting Tulane. Dave?
Another really good game in the AAC, which has a lot of balance. And Tulane, you'd think they'd run out of gas at some point, but they haven't. I think the Green Wave can hang here.
Theodore?
And I have the slightest of lean in the other direction because I'm not convinced Tulane's getting stops in this ballgame against that SMU attack. Over, to me, is one that makes a whole lot of sense.
71.5. Oregon minus 18, 19, 19.5. There's a 20 on the board. Mother of God, these lines are all over the place. Total-wise, 65.5, 66, 66.5, 67. Dave?
Well, I'm glad you want quick analysis after spending 30 seconds running down the lines.
Hey, I got to say
which will all
something
be
in these
changed by the
shows.
time people watch them.
Yeah, really. Oregon State obviously has a big motive here.
So funny, dude. You are so funny.
Oregon State has the motivation. They don't have the talent to beat Oregon, but if they're ever going to do it, I mean, it's a massive dead spot for Oregon. Massive.
Yeah, you can't lay points with the Ducks this week.
No.
It's. I mean, you really can't. Beavers or pass. Although it's probably going to be a pass. There's. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Probably the same here.
rivalry
Yeah,
week.
I'll just say it real quick. Oregon is going to be flat, but they're also going to be frustrated. And if they get a chance to rub their rival's nose in the dirt in the second half, they might do it.
Hawaii minus 2.5, 3.5 against Army. Rivalry week ends with this game. It's at 12:30 Eastern on AM on Sunday morning. Teddy, you go first.
I think Army is better than Hawaii. I worry significantly about the travel spot and the kickoff time, as you mentioned. This game starts after midnight.
Yeah, it's insane.
On the kids from West Point's body clock. So that concerns me here significantly.
But the flip side of it is Hawaii has a rather big game coming up next week.
Yep.
They are playing in the Mountain West Championship game, which is a big accomplishment for them. There'll be a lot of service people at this game. So Army will have some rooting interest. And Army needs the win because 2 of Army's wins are against FCS opposition. So if they want to get to a bowl, they better win this game. I know Navy's much bigger, but it's not a look ahead because that game's not till December 14th. I think Army's the better team as well, and I think it's a good spot for them.
Guys, what a pleasure. I love doing these shows with you. It's a privilege to host a show with the two of you. Both legends in this space. And we'll see you next Tuesday for another one of these shows. And guys, just a real quick reminder, when the college football season is over, Dave, Teddy, and I will be doing one bowl preview show, and that will be it for the college football betting show. Then Dave's going to start getting ready for first pitch. Okay, baseball's still far away.
Not that far away. When you get to my age, the calendar pages flip really quickly, so I'm going to blink and baseball season will be here.
That is definitely true. Love you guys. Have a great weekend. Congratulations to both of you for an outstanding November. Teddy, please travel safe, and Dave, enjoy your friend who is coming in from New England.
No, it's not. No, you see, you didn't pay attention to what I said.
Nor do I
No,
have
he never
one.
does.
They live here. They live here. Okay?
Okay.
Nobody's coming out from New England to cook me Thanksgiving dinner.
Well, Dave, I guarantee you that we have listeners on this show that would fly out from New England to cook you Thanksgiving dinner.
Well, I'm already booked.
Later, boys.
Cheers. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Same. Have a happy holiday.